Welcome, everyone. My name is Emily Seddon. I'm the manager for the Livable Communities Act program here at the Met Council. Really pleased that you're able to join us today to talk about our Affordable Home Ownership Grant Program. And I'm also joined by Kelly, our Senior Grants Administrator for Livable Communities, so I will let her wave or say hi if, if she wants as well. So we're here to give you some information about the program this year, as well as answer any questions that you have. The session is being recorded and posted online, so you will have that for access in the future if you need. As we go, we'll have questions, time for questions at the end, but as we go through these slides we have prepared for you today, if any questions come up that are burning for you, please feel free to put them in the chat or come off of mute and say them aloud. It's a little bit hard for me to sometimes see the chat when the slides are up, so if you come off mute, that's probably the best way to get my attention. So to get started today, we'll talk a little bit more in depth about the Livable Communities Affordable Homeownership Grants, the key dates with this program this year, eligibility, scoring, and we'll share a little bit about some past projects as well as our application resources and have time at the end for questions and answers. So to kind of ground us all, what is the Livable Communities Act and what are our programs? So the Act was adopted in 1995, establishing this voluntary grant program within the Met Council. Within the grant program, only cities, counties, and development authorities that opt into the program are able to participate and apply for grants, and they partner with developers and development partners to work on projects that advance regional goals. In order to participate, a city must have adopted an affordable and life cycle housing goals. So it is based on the forecasted need that that city has, and a great way to align the city's priorities with the regional priorities. While there's a number of Livable Communities Act programs, they all share the same overarching goals. One is to create more housing choice. That's obviously why you're all here today, thinking about homeownership opportunities. The next is to support living wage job creation, reduce greenhouse gas emissions and conserve natural resources, improve connections between housing, jobs, and amenities, and to create more equitable development outcomes across the region. So if you're curious if a city is participating or not, there is a list on our website, and I'll put a link in the chat here. Specifically within Livable Communities Act programs, the Affordable Homeownership Grant Program obviously is about creating affordable homeownership opportunities. This can be either through new construction or rehab, and we're really focused on projects that advance the Metropolitan Council's goals for racial equity and geographic choice. I'll talk a little bit more about what that means in a minute. So eligible grantees for this program, like I mentioned, are the Livable Communities Act participating cities or counties or development authorities with projects in those participating cities. We have $3 million available this year for these grants. These are all reimbursement-based grants. So you will we'll talk a little bit about eligible expenses further down the presentation, but you do the work and then Kelly and her team will make sure that that money gets back to you. All of the grant terms are 3 years. If you need an extension, up to a 2-year extension is possible, but we are looking for projects that are able to move within the next few years. There is no limit on the number of applications a city can submit. If they're working with multiple partners, we strongly encourage that. But there is a limit per project to 50% of the eligible total project costs. So that's a more complicated way of saying that the Met Council's grant can't cover more than half of what it takes to build your project. And that is cumulative. So if the project is receiving multiple grants from the Met Council, they will add up over time. So a project that's eligible for the Homeownership Grant Program has to be located in a Livable Communities Act participating city. That list is online in the chat. It has to create at least one affordable homeownership opportunity for a household earning 80% of the area median income or less. In 2025, that's about $104,000 in income. Which translates to the 2025 maximum sale price of $306,500. Right, none of the homes theoretically, since these grants will be awarded in December, are going to be sold in 2025. And so that affordability does change every year. But when you are applying, you will have to commit to that 80 of affordability at 80% of the area median income. You can always look up the Met Council's affordability criteria on our website, and I'm putting that link in the chat as well. For this grant program, the projects must provide a minimum affordability term of 15 years. Longer is great. You'll see in our scoring criteria, you will get more points for longer, but 15 years is the minimum. And we also require that you are either offering or partnering with someone to offer home stretch or a similar home buyer homeowner education course for first-time home buyers. Eligible costs in this program are really the hard costs. Land acquisition is eligible and is the only activity that can happen prior to the grant being awarded for that reimbursement basis. So land and property acquisition are considered eligible if the purchase has happened within 12 months of the application due date. So for this year, as long as the land or property was purchased after October 1st, 2024, it's eligible for the reimbursement under this grant program. All of the other project hard costs have to be incurred after the grant is awarded in order to be eligible. But we will cover everything from demolition, site prep, general construction, all those alterations, rehab, if that's what you're doing, the finishings, roofing, the electrical, plumbing, heating. All right, and that all counts towards that limit of no more than that 50% of the total project costs. Ineligible costs under this program are really the soft costs, administrative overhead, legal, cleanup is not eligible under this program because we have another program that will cover cleanup, resident services, operations, things like that. Kalia, I see you have your hand up. Do you want to come off mute and ask a question?
Yes, for the eligible cost, I see that you said that the land acquisition is the only thing that can happen prior to the grant application. Is that the same for the property acquisition as well if we're doing a rehab or? Okay,
Yes.
perfect, thank you.
Great question. So how do we score the applications? The affordable home ownership evaluation criteria are based on 4 different criteria: racial equity, geographic choice, equitable access to home ownership, and affordability. The first 2 are based on census and Met Council data. So it's a set score based on the community. And we have maps on our website so you can look up those scores, although we learned this morning that there is a problem with the search feature and it's giving people a login error. So if you are going to our website and looking at that map, know that we are trying to figure out why that's happening. It seems to be something on our end. So we'll keep working on that. But if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out, and we can talk about the score for your specific locations. Then the equitable access and affordability scores are determined by the Livable Communities Advisory Committee, it should say, reviewers. So we have 3 reviewers from that appointed committee who will take a look at your project and score based on the scoring criteria that are on our website for these. A little bit more detail about the data behind the racial equity and geographic choice. We're really looking to, as a goal for the council, to close the racial homeownership gap. So we're looking for cities that have a higher than average racial disparities in homeownership than the region, which we know is also already high. And then we are also looking at geographic choice and trying to create homeownership opportunities in areas where it's the most difficult to do so. So this can be cities where it is more expensive to do that, or where the share of the single family housing stock is already high, things like that. When the Livable Communities Act Advisory Committee members are evaluating your applications along the equitable access and affordability criteria, they're really looking at the project team and organization's record of serving BIPOC households and the demand for your program. They're looking at any prioritization that you have for first-time home buyers, and also looking to understand if there's a specific need in the community that you're meeting beyond the fact that we just know we generally need more affordable homeownership opportunities. So this could be a culturally specific need. This could be accessible or visitable homes that help people with disabilities be more independent, things like that. In affordability, it's pretty straightforward. We're looking at the household income levels that you'll be serving in this project and how long the homes will be affordable. When we're looking at the household income, you'll remember that the eligibility for this program is households that are earning 80% of the area median income or less. We would love to know if you're serving a deeper level of affordability with your projects, but we also know that there's some kind of give and take depending on what the household is eligible for in terms of down payment assistance and other assistance programs. And so if you, for example, are filling out your application and tell us that the affordability will be somewhere between 60% and 80% for households, we will be judging the criteria as if it's 80%. So we will always take that kind of highest number, knowing that program partners have the goal of getting successful homeowners into their projects with all of the available resources. The important dates for this program this year, I should maybe start even before October. So applications will open no later than September 1st. They might be a couple days before that, but the applications will be opening soon. Applications are then due by October 1st at 3 p.m. Please note that time cutoff. That's to make sure that any technical issues don't go unaddressed. Then early October through early November, our staff and the Livable Communities Advisory Committee review the applications and score them and develop the funding recommendation. So if we have any clarifying questions, I'll be reaching out to you during that point to get more information about your projects. The funding recommendation will be presented to the Metropolitan Council's Community Development Committee on November 17th, and then funding recommendations would be finalized by a vote of the full Metropolitan Council on December 3rd. And so then by early 2026, we'll be working on getting those grant agreements to the city that you are working in for the signature. I saw Maria has a question in the chat. If we have 2 existing vacant lots, would this grant be a good fit to request funding to build 2 homes? Yes, as long as the 2 homes will be sold at an affordability level that's appropriate for households who are earning 80% of the area median income or less. So this is one thing that causes confusion across all of the Livable Communities Act programs is who applies. So we know that all of these projects happen in partnership because of how the Livable Community Act is defined in statute. The applicant is always the city, the county, or the development authority. So they start the application in web grants. They request that the developer become affiliated with the application if they're not already set up that way. They sign and submit the final forms. They're listed as the grantee, and they receive the funds and then disperse the funds into the project. As developers, developers can assist with the application, do a lot of it. It's very common that the developer will do a lot of the writing, and the developer will submit the documentation for reimbursable expenses to the city to make sure that we get all of the documentation we need to make that reimbursement back. Things that both parts of the development partnership can do is reach out to us here at the council with questions, attend these presentations, attend orientations. We really do view it as a partnership, but that legal relationship is between the Met Council and the city, county, or development authority. So what goes into an application? All of the applications are completed in Web Grants, which is an online portal. And in the application, there'll be a place for grantee contact. You request a certain amount of money. You tell us about the project. We have a pro forma, a very, very simple pro forma in project workbook where you break out those hard and soft costs for us, as well as some details about the home or homes. And then there's an acknowledgement of receptivity form that needs to be signed by the city, which basically says, yes, we as a city want this housing project to move forward. Here's the project contact, but we have the authority to request these funds. And then there's a few project-based questions, the description of the home, location, engagement efforts with BIPOC home buyers, how it's addressing community needs, some of those more narrative criteria that we were talking about earlier. And Stephanie is saying in the chat for detached ownership opportunities. Yes. So when we're talking about this program, we are talking about all types of ownership opportunities. So single family detached homes is one, but townhomes, twin homes, we haven't funded condos yet, but they are eligible, are all eligible to apply. And if they are attached, do home ownership fees need to be calculated in? I'm going to have to get back to you on that one. I think we have already factored that into the affordability calculations, but I'm not positive. So I'll get back to you. Tips for successful projects. Really, we want to hear your story. Why is this project now, happening now, and why are you the right team to be doing this? What's your connection to the project and the project area? What are your goals that you're trying to accomplish with this project? We love it when you talk to our staff for this program. It's me before the project application is submitted. We can help you think about framing around our scoring criteria and help you understand how competitive your project might be. So we have our scoring criteria, but it also always depends on the other projects that come in, and we don't always know how many projects are going to request funding every year or what their characteristics are. So you're always competing against each other, unfortunately, but we want to chat. We want to chat with you if we can be helpful. You can also review the evaluation explanations and try to self-score your project to understand how you might achieve points. And we have another resource on our website. We call it our Program Essentials PDF, which has some of this information about like what to be thinking about, how you could achieve points in some of these areas. Some other resources that we have available. So the links that I've put in the chat will have this webinar recorded. We have mapping tools on our website that can help you understand right, the census level data around your project, and then importantly, that racial equity and geographic choice map. And then we have some additional information on our website around how to use web grants and those web grants processes. Let's see, a question from Jamar. Who should request the meeting with you, the developer or the city? Either one, either the developer or the city is welcome to meet with me or our staff here at the council. It's great if you're working in tandem. So as the city will have to be involved at some point, but if they kind of give you their blessing and say, you know, go figure this piece of the application out, they don't have to be involved, but it's definitely you always want to be working in coordination with the city. They should know what's going on. So this is a pretty new program for the council. This will be its 4th year. So you are part of this pilot inaugural group, and you can see just a little bit about how it's grown over the years. So this is the most money we'll be giving away. This year, or we gave away 3 million last year. We have 3 million again this year, but it's been slowly growing. And the council has really tried to prioritize funding projects and across the region and maximizing the number of homes sold or the number of homes funded. And so in some cases, that has meant that the council has recommended partial funding for a project. If it's a 10-home project, they want to make sure they're dispersing their funds across multiple communities. They might fund 2 homes from that 10-home project, but we try to link it to that deliverable. So we're not going to hold you accountable for 10 homes if 2 homes is what we're funding. Some examples of the types of homes that the program has funded so far. I mentioned townhomes, twin homes, manufactured homes, single family detached, doing preservation, adding accessory dwelling units, and we have not funded condos yet, but condos would also be an eligible homeownership opportunity. And they can be any size. So we know that these homes are often slightly larger than the apartments, and this is one way that the council helps advance our commitment to trying to make sure that there's affordable housing available for larger and multi-generational families. So that is the end of the prepared information we have for you. But I want to open it up and see if anybody has any questions that we can answer. And if not, I'll share some of the questions we get most frequently. Okay. Well, if you think of questions, please come off mute or put them in the chat. But the common questions we get are what attachments are required for this program. All of our programs have different requirements. So for the homeownership program, we need your pro forma budget workbook. We need the acknowledgement of receptivity form, and then it's optional, but we love to see any site plans or renderings that you may have to help give us a better sense of the project. So it's pretty simple there. Um, we do not score based on the budget items. So all eligible costs are considered the same for us. We're not specifically looking at acquisition or construction differently. We trust that you know where the funding is needed, and we just want to know about your overall project budget. Another question we often get is how do we choose which applications to fund? And so this is primarily driven by the scores, and that is the combination of that racial equity and geographic choice kind of data-driven community score, and then also the equitable access and affordability criteria that's scored by the Livable Communities Advisory Council. Projects that score higher, we kind of are the most likely to get funded, and then we kind of go down as the line until we run out of funding. The council has, over the past several years, asked to prioritize funding the most number of units, and so there is a little bit of consideration there with to balance the score and the number of units that we're funding. And then finally, a question we get really often is, can your project get multiple Livable Communities Act awards? And the answer is yes. Your project can get awards from multiple programs within the Livable Communities Act. So if you had a pre-development award for your project, you are now eligible to come in and request construction dollars through the homeownership program or one of those other eligible costs. That's just fine. And if you received a home ownership award in a previous funding round, but still have a gap to fill, you are eligible to come back again and request additional funding. Are there other questions that are coming to people's mind?
Can this funding be considered for like a seed funding so we can find, let's say, we're trying to put another application with a private funder. Is that something that you guys can also consider this, like a seed funding?
The Met Council funding can be early in funding, but it has to be for any of those eligible costs. So it can't just be for, let me see if I can find that eligible cost slide. So it can't be for preparing that bid or that grant to a private funder. It can't cover some of your soft costs, but because it is a 3-year grant term, you could get the grant, right, have it committed, and still be looking for that private funding and then start building a year or two later. So as long as the eventual thing we're paying for is in this list of eligible costs, it's okay for the early money in. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you. And I missed the first 5 minutes of the meeting,
No,
so
you're fine.
I missed that it was a multi-year grant. Thank you.
Yep. And a question from Jamar, no match is needed. How does that consider soft costs in a pro forma? So I think this program used to require a match, and it does not anymore. The match ended with last year's, or I guess there was no match required last year either. And so when we're thinking about soft costs in your pro forma, we want to have a sense of what your total development cost is. And so while we can't pay for those soft costs, we just kind of want that line item in there to understand the total development cost. Does that answer your question?
So to follow up with that, would you want to see where that source is coming from then?
Nope, we don't need to see that
Okay.
source. In the pro forma, we will ask you for your sources. So if you have other funding already committed for the project or where you're planning on getting that funding, we ask for that. We want to understand how we want you to show us that this is a feasible project. But even if the funds aren't committed, we're not grading on whether or not they're committed. Are there any construction design requirements? Nothing above and beyond your typical Minnesota building code. Any other?
Emily, I put a
And
follow-up in, but you don't
sure.
need to answer it. I don't want to dominate the time. We can do that offline. I just wanted to add some clarity to the question.
Oh, thanks. Oh, related to the homeownership or
Yeah.
homeowners association fees. Okay, yeah, we'll follow up with the group on that. I didn't share when we started. I have been with the council less than a year. So if you all have been through this before, I worked a little bit with Ashley Johnson last year on this program, but have not gone through a full cycle with it yet myself. So I'm still learning this with you all too, but we'll get the answer around the homeowners association fees.
I just have one real quick question to follow up on the construction design.
Sure.
So Minnesota Green Communities criteria is no longer required?
It's not required. It would potentially help you score better in some of the criteria around meeting a need for the community or other, right, like efficiencies. A lot of the green communities criteria will help, lower energy costs for the residents. So things like that can be helpful. But this we're not funding this through the Minnesota Housing Single Family RFP anymore. And so we are giving the project teams the flexibility to say what makes sense for the location and population you're building for. Any other burning questions? All right. Well, feel free to reach out to me anytime. There's a link on our website to schedule time with any of us that are working on these projects. I'll put that in the chat. There's like a schedule with us right at the top, I think. And we are looking forward to seeing what projects you are all considering for this year. Look forward to working with you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice day.